You think? I think, yep, we're live.
We are. Okay, perfect. Happy Friday. I'm back in my other oasis today. No more cool backdrop. So we are happy to see you guys coming on. Sorry for the very late registration link. That is my fault. So we're glad that you're here. Victoria, you're there. You can hear us.
Yep,
Perfect. Perfect.
sounds good.
All righty.
Well, it's your
Well,
magical 304 number already.
or 204, depending on where you
204 your
live.
time.
Yeah. Okay. We want to get this thing kicked off.
Yeah, let's do it.
We've got a good one today for those of you who are new to our system or have recently come on board, who have only ever seen this calendar. We had a whole different calendar set up, I don't know, less than a month ago. So new calendar, new features, new things. So we're going to walk you through today how to look at your calendar, fix things, tweak things, build things, and then we'll give you a couple of pro tips along the way of just things we're hearing from people chatting in with support issues. If you have thoughts, questions, or concerns, you know what to do on the chat at the bottom or top, however you're looking at Zoom. Chat us, give us Q&A. We'll be happy to answer those live in living color. So we're going to kick this baby off. Are you ready?
I'm ready. All right, I will
Okay.
get AR pulled up.
And you guys, while she's doing that, you received an email today, a newsletter just now, because our email system crashed this morning, but it has in it a training for the document repository. So you can see that. It's got a couple other pro tips and things on the virtual toolkit, and then some replays of webinars we did last week and then also yesterday. So if the Good Faith Exam webinar piques your interest, you have a link on your AR newsletter that just came out to you about an hour ago. So you can check that out.
Wonderful. All right, can you see my screen?
Sure can.
Right. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started, but if you are new to Aesthetic Record or if you're using the system, to get to the section that we're going to take you through now as far as configuring your calendar, you are going to log in through a web browser. And once you get logged in, you're going to the Appointments tab right up here. All right, so from this initial view, anytime you need to edit anything in regards to your appointments, just make sure you're always clicking this little settings widget over here to the right. So we're gonna head to Smart Configuration first. And the first thing or item that we'll take you through today is going to be setting up your provider schedule. So in the system, it's very logical. You have to have a provider actually available in order to book. So let's try to find someone that doesn't have a schedule.
Our folks are
All
not
right, so
being very well booked because they've got 0% appointments in their capacity. That's not good.
I know, not good at all.
Dead weight.
I know, right? Okay, so in this section here, when we set up provider schedules, the fun thing about this is that you can customize per location, you know, so if a provider is working at location A one day and then location B another, you can customize that in your account. You have a few different ways to add this in. So you can simply just click on the day that you would like to add. You'll notice it auto inserts the date. You can also use this add schedule button in the top right corner. Now, we have a couple of options when it comes to actually building those schedules. So the daily option, the best way to kind of think about that is if you're scheduling, you know, maybe a one-off Saturday, you would use that daily schedule because it allows you to build one day. Now, when we think about a repeating week schedule, that's where the weekly option will be valuable for you. So you can select the day of the week. So let's say that every Friday, our guy JT here, he works at Lovely Lines. So you'll notice I've got Lovely Lines here. He starts work at 9 and he leaves at 6. So once you enter in those hours, you can actually set this up so that it repeats for a certain amount of time. So let's say that we'd like to set this up, I don't know, until the end of June, for example. We can go ahead and select that. And once we enter all the information in, we can hit that save icon. So this will create that repeating Friday schedule for this particular provider. Now, a couple of other things here. So if, let's say that this provider was going to be out of the office one day, you can come in here and actually physically remove the time that they're scheduled. So you'll notice you have that delete icon down here. And if you needed to change the time that this provider is working, maybe they're staying until 7 one night. So we can simply just come in here. You'll notice I entered in 7 p.m. and then I can save that. So it's kind of like your quick editing tool, if you will. All right, so that's how we enter provider schedules in.
And
Did I
remember, I
miss
think that
anything?
the key thing to remember there is whatever is on that schedule is what is going to be available for online booking. So if they are in the office, but they're not working as a provider when they're there, don't put them on the schedule. Think about this as your online booking navigational tool. So, or even your booking if you're in the clinic booking for people. This is when we look at, you'll see in a minute, their grayed out schedule. That's what dictates that grayed out area. So just if you want to put out of office things on there, we have other ways to do it, but this is how you book. So it's not their actual work schedule, if that makes any sense.
That is awesome. All right, so we are going to talk about adding in some services now. So in Aesthetic Record, you do have the option to do either a virtual appointment or an actual in-person appointment. So you do want to start off by building categories first. So we're in services, we're clicking manage categories right over here. So you'll notice in here, I have just some basic categories set up so that when my patients are booking online, they can see those categories that are listed. Now, to actually add a brand new service in, we hit create service over to the right. And first, this is just asking us to select, is it an in-person or is it a virtual appointment? So you'll go ahead and make your selection here, and I'll take you through both screens. They're going to be a little bit different, but the in-person appointment, you'll notice it will have us choose like a category. So if I wanted to do like a dermal filler new patient appointment, we could add that in. This will allow you to choose what clinic it's available at. And then any providers can be attached to that service as long as they have a username in your system.
Which,
The
by the way, as you go
Yep.
through there, so just if you guys didn't catch that, unavailable at clinics, you can add multiple clinics. So if you have 7 locations in the same city, you can make the same thing across all 7. Just like the providers, and the schedule on the back and the calendar dictates what providers at what location on what day where they can be booked for it. So that's why the calendar has a lot of logic to it. So just know you can do multiple things at multiple clinics. And when you wrap up here, I'm going to show an example of how the categories make sense and why it's so important. So when you finish here, I'll share my screen and kind of give you an overview
Yeah,
of another customer's account.
that's perfect. All right, so a few other things here. You can choose your duration. You do have that custom option right over here. And then you can add certain things. So if you didn't want, I don't know, 2 services booked at the same time, you can add that logic in here. So if we hit our continue section, we'll just choose this, or continue button here. This is going to ask us, what type of paperwork would we like to tie into the service? So we choose if it's cosmetic or health. And then as we work our way down, so cosmetic questionnaires, you can tie those in. And keep in mind, we've talked about this a lot, but keep in mind that consents, questionnaires, and treatment instructions can all be sent to the patient portal. So when we think about, our AR no touch toolkit, this is something you'll definitely want to take advantage of. Because then your patient won't actually have to touch your device when they come in. They'll have their consents already signed from their patient portal. So you can fill that information out. And then this is like a hidden gem that not many people know that we have, but surveys. So if you're looking to capture your net promoter score or just like a typical satisfaction survey, you can create surveys in your settings widget right up there. And then you can actually tie those surveys in. So if I wanted to capture my net promoter score after every single service, I could do that. You can choose the timing as to when this goes out. So maybe this goes out 1 hour after the service, has been completed. So that's kind of a nice little feature to take advantage of if you're not using it already.
Can I,
you want to, yeah.
Can I share really quickly? Because I think it might
Yeah.
it might add some color here. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to share this.
Yeah.
Gretchen won't care. We're going to use Gretchen Freeling's site because she is a good little online booker user. Can you see? Let me resume. Can you see my book and appointment screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So people ask us a lot about the online descriptions. Why do I need that? What does that mean? We mentioned this again yesterday on our training yesterday. If you look at Gretchen's, for example, These are her categories. So that's what Victoria said, to put categories in, because if you have a lot of services, all of a sudden now they're very organized. Virtual consults, first-time patients, etc. And then if you'll use the little online booking box, you can add in things you want them to know. So it might be where you put in here, this requires for new patients a good faith exam, or this requires, some other thing. So if you want them to know something when they come in, make sure that you utilize your little more info box that Victoria had there at the very bottom, so that you can tie those things into your online booking portal. That way you don't have to go toggle between your site and then our booking site back and forth. I think the other thing too to note is on the surveys, this is maybe a personal preference, depending on the service that you're using. If it's toxin, to do a survey 1 minute or 1 hour after is kind of pointless. You might want to do a toxin survey at day 10 when the results have kicked in. Or it might be filler is a couple days after. Maybe you want to just know about, do you like our environment? Were things easy? COVID was was the process simple? That might be a 1 hour after. So think about your survey times as you build your surveys. What's the result you want to get? Build them to get that result, and then put the timing down so that you achieve the actual result. Then you can take those good scores, reach out, get Facebook reviews, Google reviews, etc. So the survey, I think, is one of the most underutilized features that we have, which can offer a tremendous amount of value for you and your practice. So anywho, hopefully that makes sense on categories and using your descriptions. And I'll stop and hush and let you go again.
No, that was great.
We're like Cheech and Chong in our webinars. You guys know that come on every day.
So just to recap real quick what Tiffany just showed us. So that little description box right here, that's the purpose of this. So that will tie into your online booking. So we highly recommend using it. You can put anything you want about what to expect with the service, things like that. And then, awesome. Okay, so we're gonna keep going here. All right, so this last page here for additional information, this is going to allow you to create certain things like equipment, or rather tie it into your service. You can choose if something's available for online booking. So maybe if you are using online booking, maybe most of your services are available. There's a one-off that's not available for online booking. And then some other things right here. So disable card capture for the service. That just means, do you want to require a credit card at the time of booking, which is tied to the cancellation policy. So just keep that in mind. And this will also, tie into that cancellation policy as well. So what we will do now is—
And those that came on yesterday, I think the GFE would be a great example of not using it for online booking. I want it to be a service. I want to block time on the calendar when we book it, but I don't want someone to be like, I think I'm going to come get a GFE today. Like, no one's going to do that, right? So there might be places like that where you have logical reasons why you wouldn't online book something that you actually need to have on the schedule.
That's awesome. Perfect. So I will just take everybody through a quick little glimpse of what the virtual settings look like. So once again, if we hit that create service button, we choose virtual. So you'll notice the layout's just a little bit different. It's still asking you most of the same questions. What, consents do you want to add in? What questionnaires do you want to add in? The biggest difference down here is the ability to charge at the time of booking. So let's say that you offer a virtual consultation and maybe that consult is $50. If you go ahead and add your pricing down below here, that would allow your patient to put their credit card information in at the time of booking, and it would actually charge them for that consultation. So keep that in mind if you are using that's kind of how that feature works.
And the reason it's different is because you're not going to be injecting during a virtual consult. So you get a limited pared down menu. I think one important thing to note too, as Victoria went through that, is you see cosmetic and health timelines. This has become a very big question on our chat feeds, that I'm not seeing my consents in my patient portal when I book the appointment. Think about this as like a stepwise plan. If I'm going to do a cosmetic appointment, I need to have in that booking services field cosmetic questionnaires, cosmetic consents that then tie to the cosmetic procedure. If I'm attaching things that are health timeline for a health procedure, then I go do it on the cosmetic timeline, there's going to be an issue there. So however you set it up is how you have to chart it for those things to pull over. Now there are some tricks and things that are coming even as right now that you can see where documents have been completed. If you want to change the timeline, there'll be some more things next week that we'll take you through a little bit in a second. But just know that it has to all match and match the appointment, or else things are going to kind of get lost in space. So.
Alrighty, so okay, so when we talk about equipment and resources, you'll notice a few minutes ago, I kind of showed everybody where you could actually add that information in, but from the other resources section, this is where you can actually add your physical equipment. So if we think of, a cool sculpting machine, that could go in here, a hydrofacial, that can also be built in this section. If we hit add equipment, you will set up your hours. So maybe this is only available on Tuesdays and Thursdays from a certain time. So this actually helps manage your booking as well. You can also designate specific cleanup time here. So if you have a particular device and you know that it always takes X amount of minutes to clean up after, you can customize that inside of here. And then one other quick thing. So when we think about resources, we see this often with particular rooms or even, IV therapies, the chairs, for instance. So your resources can be added in here as well. You'll notice you can designate like any type of resource. You set your hours, your clinic, and then just to backtrack really fast. So once again, once you create those resources and or equipment, then you go into your service, you go to clinical resources. This is where you can add a physical resource or an actual resource. So think of an injection room, for instance. And then once you add that in, you can also designate that equipment right here. So it's on the additional info screen. Does this require equipment? You just toggle that on and you choose the device that's relevant for that service. So pretty easy to get that stuff in there. And then one other fun little tip from this screen. So in the event that you change your services or you're adding, additional services, we do have this nice little clone button over to the right. So this actually would allow you to build a service a little bit faster. So if we hit the clone button, often what we do is we'll use this, and if we know the duration's the same, it's available, at the same locations, same providers, you can simply just change that service name and hit continue. So that's a little trick to kind of save time when creating services. Alrighty. So we are going to head over here. Sorry, shuffling through my different screens here.
And I'm trying to get a sneak peek of an upcoming feature for you guys. So
Ooh, we love sneak peeks.
you'll kill me when you see me do this, but it'll be okay.
All right, so what we will go through next is just a couple of the other settings when we are referring to any appointments. So inside of your booking portal button right up here, you can set up your time slots like so. So if you only want appointments, on the 15-minute increment, you can set that up right here. The system will come preset to 5 minutes. So keep that in mind, but you can always come in here and edit that. So if we chose the 15-minute selection, that would be, an appointment could be at 12, 12:15, 12:30, 12:45, etc. So keep that in mind. You can edit that information. And then the minimum lead time right here, this is actually used very frequently, especially when we think about online booking. So the lead time, you can customize that here. So let's say that maybe you wouldn't want a patient to potentially book, 24 hours before the actual time of your service. You can set that up in this section and kind of limit when certain things can be booked. So something to take advantage of. And then this is a little side note here, but if you are using online booking or even the patient portal, you can copy your patient portal URL right up here at the top. So if you just right click, you can copy it. And then a lot of our clients are actually embedding that to their website. They're building like a little patient portal button on the website so that your patients can always kind of direct themselves there if they ever lose the link. And then the same thing goes for online booking. So you can actually add that URL to your site as well and build like a book now button if you want.
Which we recommend, highly recommend that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have multiple clinics, like if you see ours, we have all the clinics below. If you go to the all clinics URL button, the top link there, that will allow the person to choose whatever clinic they want to choose. Versus if you only have the specific location, it would just show up Medical Spa LLC or Beautiful Aesthetics. So if you're running multiple sites, multiple locations, Just know there's a difference between the overall URL and the individual location URLs.
Mhm. Perfect. Alrighty. So let's see here. So go over here. So a few other things with booking, you can build your cancellation policy in this section. So if you're heading over to that other settings section, we have a little bit of verbiage typed in here. We highly recommend that you edit that so that it's, really pertinent towards your practice. You can add cancellation fees here, the time that's associated, and then we are always happy to kind of pass this little verbiage out down below. If you chat us in, we can always send this to you, or you can basically create your own. But these messages right here would show up to your patient for online booking purposes. So they would get to see your actual policy. And if you have this cancellation policy on, once again, at the time of booking, you can accept credit card details. So if they no show, you can then, charge the card that they've put on file. Alrighty, let's go over to appointment reminders next. So when we think about appointment reminders, you can customize all of that here. So if you hit create reminder, you can choose when you want that additional email and text to go out to your patient. So you're setting that information up here, and you'll notice in my account that I have a couple set up. So I have one going 1 hour before and then 2 days before. So even if you have, a 24-hour cancellation policy, you can set this reminder up so that it's, relevant to that. All right, let's
And then
see.
do we want to cover just real quick on patient portal access? I can give you guys a little bit of an upcoming thing. So on Monday, it should go live over the weekend, but so the latest date will be Monday, that when a patient books for the very first time, either with you over the phone or online booking, they will automatically be sent the activation email that allows them to go in and create their profile inside of their patient portal and then receive documents. Right now, if you book it as a clinic for them, you have to actually click the button to invite them. That is different than the Activate Now button, which you see there, which would send any patient in your system who is not currently on the portal a link to activate it, which is going to be a lot for many of you. So I would refrain from clicking that one if you could, and I would instead go to their profiles and do it. But just know that on Monday, if you've been manually inviting them on the clinic booked appointments, that will be no longer needed. You'll be able to do it all automatically. So that will be helpful for many of you, I'm hoping. But if they online book, they'll get that email immediately.
Yeah, and just as like a quick little reference here. So if you are starting to use the patient portal, you'll notice on the left panel of the patient's profile, this button will be, turned on if they've sent an invitation, or if you've sent them an invitation in the past. You'll notice here that it will say yes if they have accepted it, and you can manage their password at any time. Now, one question we get frequently is, let's see, where's Mickey Mouse? Oh,
Mickey.
there he is. I'm blind right now. Okay. So here's a great example. And if your patient is ever telling you, I can't access the portal, it's probably because they didn't accept the invitation. So this would be a great example right here. This patient has not accepted the patient portal. They were invited, but they haven't accepted. So we just need to resend this email for them to get that activation link. So keep that in mind if you ever get stumped with accessing the portal. Okay, so we're gonna head back here real quick. Trying to see what else. Do we want to talk about our new templates real quick?
Yeah, just in case you guys haven't done those yet, we had some questions come in this morning on chat about our templates and snippets and things. I'm happy to give you a minute.
Yeah.
I love these templates. If you're in this particular communications window, you have the option to obviously turn them on at the top, which it says booking confirmation, email, SMS enabled. You must enable that. But at the bottom, you're able to populate the template immediately, and you see all this verbiage in here. Let's say you don't like the verbiage, you want to change it, things are different. You can absolutely change all the verbiage you want to change in there. If you want to keep the nice little call to action buttons that are little black buttons there, you have to keep that part in there. It's linked to your patient dashboard, but you can change everything else. Just be cognizant of if you change things, the snippets on the right hand of your screen that say like clinic name, clinic location, That's what pulls the variable from the booking. And so if you want things to be pulled over at the time of booking that says it's Victoria at 4 o'clock today for dermal filler, you have to keep those snippets intact. And you notice that both of those little squiggly lines, I don't know what they're called, have to come with it, or else it doesn't work. It's got to be both that come over. So someone asked today about, I want to change the verbiage. This is yours to change. We just give you a template best practice that you can use for now. And every email communication that you have that you can send out, that you can tweak, has the option for a new template. So you can change it, build it, whatever, and then you're good to go. And there's virtual. The difference is in virtual, it has a meeting link in it, embedded in it, which you wouldn't have in person, clearly. So that's in here as well. It used to be buried in our old templates and you couldn't really find it. So it's a bit more front and center here, but feel free to change them and tweak them. Your patient dashboard email, some folks have forgotten to change that one, so it looks kind of crazy. Just make sure on your booking portal that's also has a new template email that you go in and you change that. I think it's in other settings.
Yep.
Yeah, right here. Make sure on this one that you also go in and change that one too. You can also link out other things. Let's say you have a video you want to embed that shows how to, do your Carta Clinic workflow. You can embed videos in here as long as you're the hyperlink. So it's a pretty easy text editor. Just make sure that you turn them on for at least this one, or else it looks kind of crazy in the system today.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So we're going to head back to the calendar.
And someone had a question about, can we turn off SMS for surveys? When we have communications, they kind of go all or nothing. And I may be wrong, Victoria, but I think it's like you get SMS and email or you get nothing. So there's not a way to separate them out. I would say that most patients, if you give them two options, might maybe do one option. So in our experience, you hit them twice and hope that they do it once, but they're not, unfortunately, able to be separated out right now.
All right, perfect. So we are going to talk about building some out of office events next, and then we'll talk about just some best practices for the new calendar. So you guys will be so excited if you haven't watched any of our appointment videos yet, but you can build out of office events now. So you'll notice I just clicked the create icon. You can click that, or you can actually click directly on the calendar. If you choose out of office here, you choose your day and your time. I'm like, what is today's date? We'll do it for later today. We'll do 4 o'clock. So you can set that up, and then next we can name the event. So I don't know, I'm just going to put lunch in, even though quite a late lunch. And then the other thing to kind of keep in mind, so let's say that you're doing an internal training, you could name it training, you add in, any staff members that are actually relevant for that. So that's just an easy way to build those events for everybody on the team. And then that will block off the calendar. So you'll notice here, once we add this in, I'm going to save it in just a moment, but keep in mind frequency. So even if you think about Memorial Day or holidays, things like that, you can set these events to reoccur on a certain time, whether it's annually, weekly, whatever the case may be. So I am going to go ahead and save this now.
There is an automatically cancel button there. So if you were,
oh yeah,
let's say it was the COVID days and you had to cancel everything all at once, you can hit automatically cancel all existing appointments. I would caution against that, perhaps calling and changing providers, but you can do that here if you'd like. And so someone asked about if I have vacation days or the MA is out for the day. If you don't want to go into the calendar provider schedule and change things, you could obviously do it here and it would just block it out with the big black box for whatever the duration is that they're going to be out. So you can now do two different methods, and this won't count against their average order value or their appointment booking percentages at all now.
Perfect. So you'll notice here that this event was placed on the calendar now. I'm just in Jane Doe's calendar. So this is an individual view. On the left panel here, you can choose a particular provider. So if you wanted to look at a different person, you can do so. Now, if we hit clinic view, and we'll go to our other location. Hopefully we have some appointments booked today. We'll see. So a couple, yep. So a few things from this calendar view here. So you notice that I am in clinic view. Clinic view means you're seeing everyone. The gray sections right here, this just means that they are actually on the schedule for the day. So you'll notice it tells me, oh, they're available from 9 to 6 for bookings. And then that event that we created for the little lunch break, you'll notice that I booked it on a couple provider calendars. And so that's listed on this menu now. It's just, it'll be black if they're, out of the office at that time. So it's pretty easy for your staff to, see all that information. So now,
And then for
let-
Kenneth, just if there's any confusion, we booked her out of office after the appointment was already booked. That's why it's laid on top. So it wasn't that you could book on top of it. We did them in the opposite order.
Mhm. Okay. Perfect. So now we will go into talking about the clicking and booking function. So let's find Jane Doe here. So a few things from this view here. So let's say that I look at the schedule and I'm like, oh, I want to get a patient in for 5:30 Botox with Jane Doe. If I click on Jane Doe's name, that's going to take me directly to her personal calendar. Now, once we get into her personal calendar, then all I need to do is click down below here. So I've just clicked onto the calendar. The really, really cool thing about this is that it will autofill that provider name because we clicked on her, and it will autofill your clinic name as well. So we had a lot of requests on this one that we want it to autofill our clinic, which I totally get. So that is how you will accomplish that, is by clicking their name and then, clicking directly onto their calendar. So next, if we work our way down, we can choose the appointment type, and you'll notice you can add additional services right over here. The current state of the calendar right now, it will only allow you to book with the same provider. So if you were doing like, Botox and filler with the same provider, you could accommodate that in the calendar right now. So down here, you'll notice it auto filled in our time as well, but you do have the option to change that if you want. And we will, let me find a patient here. So if you have existing patient profiles in your system, you can choose their name from the dropdown. That will autofill their information. Do keep in mind that you can actually create a new patient profile from the screen too. So if they're not already in your system, just type their information in and it will pre-create a new profile for them.
And let's take
And
a
then,
pause real quick.
yeah,
Pause moment. A
thank
couple
you.
things. Where it says Josh Smith, if the email is wrong, change it. It's right here. You have a text, just change it. You can change the email, you can change the phone number. All these things are editable. Second thing is if you have multiple people with the same name on there, if I've got 7 Josh Smiths and they're duplicate profiles, we can tell you how to manage those to merge them together. But just know that if you've got, like, there's 3 Tiffany Lopez's in our system today. I was like, which Tiffany Lopez is the right one for what I want to show? Just know that when you go here to book, you can see, gosh, I've got 3 Victoria Adrians, all have different email addresses, all have different phone numbers, which one is which. It's like an indication for you that you might need some data cleanup. This happens across every account every day. We see it all the time. So just know you can edit this and change it to make sure you're connecting the right email address to the right patient's name. And then the other thing on the current state of the calendar is, to Victoria's point, if we wanted to book multiple services, the logic of the calendar today says if it takes me an hour for filler and 30 for Botox and 25 for a skincare consultation after, it's going to add all those together for the full time, where it doesn't allow you to edit the end time. So that's like a big chunk of time that you're booking. We are working on right now, diligently working on the ability to edit the end time. So you could say, instead of blocking the full, like, bam, 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 you could say this whole block of time would be, an hour and a half instead of an hour and 45 minutes. So that is not live today. We get asked about it every single day. It's in the works, but as you see here, there's a lot of logic on the back end of the calendar that makes everything work in the right function. So it's a massive feature change, but it is coming. So just know, I don't have a definitive date, but it is definitely in the priority list and being worked on as we speak. So that's my
Stay
gospel
tuned.
for the day. Stay tuned for this new thing.
Perfect. All right. And then one other quick thing. So at the bottom, if we choose the enter credit card details, if you have this will only show up if you have your cancellation policy on, but you can enter in your patient's credit card details and that enrolls that particular appointment in the cancellation policy. So feel free to use that, but we are going to go ahead and save this appointment. A couple other tips and tricks from the screen. So if you wanted to, for a one-off time, send either just a text message or just an email, feel free to choose that selection. And then maybe if you, potentially don't want to send a notification at all for this case, just hit don't send notification. And then obviously we all know of the send notification button. So I don't need notifications right now, so I won't send it.
And a good use case for that would be Victoria walked in the clinic as a walk-in. Hey, can you get me in today? The answer is yes. I want to create an actual appointment on the calendar so I can, historically see that later on. I might book her right there at the front desk, so there is an appointment on my schedule, but she doesn't need an email because she's standing right in front of me. So there's a use case for that where you might not want to send a notification.
That's very true. All right, so what we're going to do now is we are going to click on one of our appointments. So you'll notice a few things from this menu. We can edit those appointment details by clicking this edit icon right up here. So you'll notice it takes us back into our, appointment configuration screen, so you can edit any of those details. Now, if we head back to that section, we'll talk about a few other things here. So appointment notes, in the event that, maybe the patient called back in, they have questions about something or whatever the case may be, you can always come in here and add those notes.
Like they're very concerned about the COVID and you need to be like super cautious with them because they're a nervous Nelly. You could put that in here. These are not patient.
Their name is Victoria Adrian and they're nervous.
And just so you're aware too, if you were ever to have to provide a patient chart to a medical board or anyone else, the notes that you type in, whether it's a customer note or an appointment note, et cetera, those things are not part of that chart, only the procedure notes. So if you ever put in here, patient's kind of off the rocker, not sure what's going on, that's not going to be public for like people to see. So just a helpful thing if you ever want to know.
That's great. So down here at the bottom, you'll notice we have a couple of options. Now, all of these options, like the mark is a no-show. Wait,
I muted you. I was trying to cough and I muted you. Sorry.
I looked at my screen. I was like, great, have I been muted this whole time? So on the day of the appointment, the patient check-in and the mark is a no-show will show up on the day of. The patient check-in, if we'll click on that real quick so I can show you what it looks like. So this is where you can set up communications for your front desk to potentially check someone in, and then that text will go to your provider. If you have your account set up that way, you'll notice this little checkbox here. But you could say, I'm putting a patient in room 6, and they also mentioned they wanted to talk about, I don't know, lip augmentation today. That's kind of a good way to pass information back and forth. So that is one little thing.
And that's huge. Like, I think that is. Let's take a moment and dwell there for a quick second.
Let's pause. Yeah.
We had a customer, I don't know, a few months ago, I was like, I just wish I could tell providers the patient was here. I'm like, well, that's in the system today. On your user teammate settings, at the bottom, if you're a provider, at the bottom, it has an option to send you like an SMS when patients check in. You have the choice to put your phone number in there and click to be notified. Click that button and then you get these messages. So if you wear an Apple Watch, you're obviously cooler than me. I don't have one on, but if you wear one, you'll get the text that tells you these things, the patient's here, and then this information. So if you are a clinic that wants an internal communication system that isn't yet developed, perhaps coming soon, it's a good way to be able to share information as you check patients in. So make sure in your teammate section under the users that you have this enabled for your providers or estheticians, whomever you're using.
Great point. All right, so then when we think about charging cancellation fees, so that mark is a no-show button. I didn't enroll that appointment in the cancellation policy, but if I click that button, it would prompt me, do I want to charge the patient, I don't know, my $50 no-show fee, for example. You can choose yes or no. So it's really, really helpful for you within the practice because you can dictate, yes, I want to charge, or if they had a family emergency, we probably wouldn't want to charge them. So that will give you the ability to manage that. And then obviously canceling will just get that get that appointment right off your calendar. Did I miss anything?
I think the one thing on rescheduling is, as you're changing, if you change a provider and a time frame and all these things, I'm a big advocate of clean data throughout. So if Victoria comes into the clinic right now and I'm busy and I can't get to her because there's like an emergency, hyaluronidase, vascular occlusion, whatever, and my friend Sally has to take her to the back room and treat her, I want to change that in the appointment. Like I'd want the front desk to come into here and change the provider so that now there's a record that it's now Sally and not Jane. I know on the procedure, you're going to change it anyway, but this will auto prompt the procedure to be filled out correctly from the get-go if you change things from the appointment setting. Think about this in a decision tree as your first line of defense. If this is right, everything else flows so much easier as you go down. And also, if, for instance, the patient filled out paperwork around this appointment, and now we're doing it, and I pull that appointment off of my schedule to then do all of her paperwork, connect her patient consents and questionnaires, et cetera, everything now will flow correctly. So think about your appointments block as like the holy grail of how your data accuracy starts. So I could talk about data accuracy all day long. I will not bore you all with that today, but just know it's important.
We love it. Thanks. Okay, so let's think about anything else here. A couple of other little things that you might not know about. So you'll notice when we click the little settings widget, we have this booking history section. So if you're looking at just any of your general booking reports or you want to see what's happening within a particular time frame, you can use this section. You will notice up here that you can sort by like, oh, maybe I wanted to see all of the appointments that were booked by the customer on 5/22. So you can use the filters right up here and then over here as well. So if you wanted to see, who has no showed today, for example, you can use that to your advantage.
So Victoria, quick question on that. We just had a question come in about, can I see how many times a patient has changed an appointment? So what I'm hearing you say here is I can filter by the changes for the day, but am I able to search by the customer's name?
Let's see.
That was a leading question, by the way.
I think we can. Yeah, so if we come in here, you can search the patient's name. So I think that's what they're looking for, right?
Oh, in their chart, Caitlin, in their chart, you wouldn't be able to see how many times they've changed things because you're going to chart your procedure from the appointment that's actually on file today. Wouldn't see if they'd rescheduled it before.
I was going to say there's one little section. So like if we'll go back into his little profile here. So when we think about looking at the historical section of the patient's profile, let me go back, or actually, I don't know if Mickey Mouse has any appointments. We'll get back
Mickey
there.
Mouse probably hasn't come in very much.
I don't think he's been treated enough just yet. So what I'm going to show everybody here in just a moment is under the More Info tab over here on the right side, we can click that and view appointment history. So inside of the appointment history, we can see if it's upcoming, and then there will typically be, you'll see like any appointment notes will show right here. This is like our demo guy, so he's got a lot of stuff going on, but clearly. But this is just kind of a nice way to view any of that appointment history, as well. So
there's also an option in the patient portal or in the patient profile that, to your point, Caitlin, if someone's a chronic rescheduler, canceler, no-shower, you can fire them from your practice. You can just turn that button on. It's like blocking them on Facebook or Instagram. Done. So if you ever want that to happen to you or to them where they can't access anything, just click the button.
So that will block them from online booking and from the patient portal. And it's a nice reminder for your staff too, that this patient is fired.
So if they dispute every credit card transaction that they've ever done with you, block them, fire them, get rid of them. We will advocate for you on that behalf to tell you to do it.
All right, awesome. So I think we've pretty much hit everything on the calendar. I was just thinking a few other little reports that are kind of nice to take a look at here. So inside of Business Insights, if we go to our appointments section over here, if I hit create report, so this is also a nice tool. You can pull reports off of cancels, no-shows, and then if you wanted to break things down on a per provider or per clinic basis, you can do so. I don't know if I have too many cancellations in this account, but we will find out.
Our demo team always shows up.
Oh, we've got a few. Okay.
This is year to date, so yeah, we probably have a couple.
Year to date, yep. So this will give you that list of every 23 patients have canceled their visits for Lovely Lines. So kind of a nice to know.
And if we had that booking by appointment, booking by clinic report, if you're still using the old calendar mindset of I'm going to book an appointment and call her lunch and make her a person, she now counts, lunch counts as a part of your booking percentage, which then counts against your average order value, because she's a never spending, never coming, never doing anything appointment that's always on the calendar. It will chronically impact your percentages and your numbers for your staff. So I recommend, if you're using the old mentality that we had to do before of I've got to book Christmas vacation as like, an appointment, go to this new function, change it over to where you have an actual out of office event, because those black boxes don't count against your percentages. And then you had a question, Caitlin, about blocking somewhere. If I block Victoria and I fire her, can she create a new profile? You control that. So when Victoria calls back in to book an appointment and I look up her name, Victoria Adrian, I'm going to see in her existing profile, because it won't delete, it just stays there, that she's been fired. Now, if you choose to change your mind, you can, but she can't create a patient profile in a portal without an invitation from you that is triggered by her booking, and she can't book because she's blocked. So there's like a logical flow there where, unless she wants to come in as a fake name, which isn't medically accurate anyway, HIPAA, whatever, then no, she couldn't go around that. So there you go. And then, so on the virtual, yeah, this would be something where if you want just so I understand, the MA to do a virtual consult, that's going to end, and then she's going to see Victoria face to face? Or do you want to go from virtual consult with the MA to virtual consult with Victoria? Melissa, I want to make sure I understand, because the first way, if I'm going to do my virtual consult as the MA, put notes in the chart, finish up my appointment, then we can book her with a live visit with Victoria right after.
Mm-hmm.
Both virtual. They'd have to
consults.
be two separate
appointment selections, right?
There is a workaround, but I don't want to confuse the masses here. For you to have good reporting, which again is important, good reporting, you'd want the name of the provider to change from a virtual consult with Victoria to one with the MA. Make those 15-minute appointments and like book them back to back. There's a way where you could have the person come back into the meeting, and but that's going to get a little bit hairy if there's ever like a charting question or a HIPAA question or a medical board question. You wouldn't know who did what. So I'd say book them as two separate things.
Mm-hmm. Book it with a provider.
Perfect. But I get what you're saying. Totally get it.
All right. Can you think of anything else that we didn't go over?
No, but can I
oh yeah,
blow your mind for a second?
Yeah. You're muted, by the way.
I know, I see. Let me get my screen working here. Hold on a minute, guys. Let's see here. I'm going to share my iPhone, which is a little dangerous. Okay. Can you see it? And is it too small?
I can see it.
Is it good enough size?
Yeah, it's
okay,
full screen
perfect
for me. Yep.
So we've been talking about this document repository now for like, I don't know, weeks. It finally launched on the web last week. I'm going to show you what it will look like on the phone or the iPad, so that those of you who are really stressed about, I can't see my consents and questionnaires, I'm really worried about if they've been signed. I'm going to walk you through it here and then tell you another thing that's coming next week that will make it even easier. So if you're in the patient's profile from your tele, if you do much like you do on the website now, you've got your 3 dots at the top. So can you see my mouse right there?
Yeah.
And if you click documents, it will look exactly the same as it does on the website. The only issue here is that I can't search. However, if I hit the plus button for any of those, this is a beta account, so things are crazy. I can see the actual procedure export like I would if I hit the export button. So you can see everything about that procedure within here. If I want to just see, I don't think I have any questionnaires in here, but if I had any kind of questionnaires in here or consents in here, I could just hit the button for plus, it pops it up and it shows me those documents. So if you're in with a patient wondering, did they do any of their work yet? Is this stuff all done? I can look at it here from their patient profile just by clicking on the 3 dots. The other fun thing coming is if I go to start my procedure and my patient has been a good little patient and done all their stuff, you'll see on this consents page here, check marks that say that the patient's already done these things. She's already done her Botox. She's already done her, whatever her questionnaires are, etc. You'll see it already clicked off as being done. That way you'll know from this screen alone that it's already all finished. The next thing I'll show you, which is currently live. So those two things are coming in the future state of AR, which would be hopefully in the next 10 days. We're going to our Apple Store build, hopefully by the end of today. But you have on this section some questionnaires. So many of you have a lot of questionnaires. We do a lot of procedures. So you may have a list of 30, but you have 5 that you use every day all the time. There's a favorite section now at the top. If you guys can see that, where it says favorites, I can hit those little ribbons on the side, little blue ribbons, and it moves those up to my favorite section. So now I might have all 30, but I have the top 5 that I use every day on top in my favorite section. So it will help you kind of eliminate some of the, trim the fat, if you will, as you're going through your screens. Someone asked about having a checklist for procedures the other day, like where do I get my checklist? This is a checklist that typically would go vertical. We've given to you horizontal. So you're doing all the steps in the checklist. We're just making you force navigate through it. So you have to think about it. So if you're like, gosh, this is a lot of screens, you're doing no less work or no more work. We're just taking what you would do in a checklist and putting it in subsequent screens. And so those of you who have been with us for a minute, you may know, let me go back here, cancel all the way out. No, don't save that. If you were in your app as a provider and you go to your configure procedure steps, I can move all these things around. I can pick them up and move them so that I can see what I want to see when I want to see it. Maybe I want to see very beginning, provider and clinic, am I in the right place? And the appointment, because again, the appointment, if it doesn't tie correctly to the consents and questionnaires, it won't pull them over. So that might be the first thing you want to know is this the right appointment that I'm bringing down when I do this patient's procedure? But you can make these all change around, move, do all kinds of fun things. You also may have seen that your picture screens look a little bit different now in your app. I think they look different. If not, they're coming soon in a new launch where they go this way instead of this way. So you're going to see some UI changes that make it a little bit more intuitive for you as you're going through different parts of your procedure workflow. So again, the repository is coming to the app next week at some point. I make no promises on the day. And also the check marks will be coming next week as well. You can do the favorites now and you can do your reconfiguration of your steps now. So both those things are currently live. So just wanted to let you guys know in case you were curious.
Very exciting. Thanks for sharing.
And no, don't kill me. I'm sorry. I had to. Stop the madness. All right, we're right at time. So any more lasting or lingering questions, please let us know. We hope that you found this beneficial today as you think about your new calendar. And you have a newsletter in your account today. You'll be getting those more often or with much more robust information as we launch new features. But stay tuned for a lot of big new things coming in the next couple of weeks. So we will see you guys next time.
Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.